Let's get first to Queensland, where I will tell you, every day I will have at least one example, another reason why you have to flush this mob, why you should get rid of the paranoid, pointless puppet premier that is Palaszczuk, her idiots in the ministry, and there's an incredible example of rorting that I'll get to in a moment. But first, Annastacia Palaszczuk, at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, believed that shutting down the borders would save her backside politically, that it would wipe away all of the very obvious and ongoing sins of her 2 terms in Parliament. She also used every opportunity she possibly could to talk about coronavirus. This was one from the height of the pandemic, which helped put another brick in the wall about how the Queensland government was saving lives.
I just want to reassure Queenslanders that we are doing absolutely everything we need to do in case we do have a COVID outbreak. And what you're seeing here today behind me is our shield against COVID.
Well, guess what? The shield broke. We learn now, months after those statements were made, that there was a shortage of masks in Queensland, that Queensland health officials were frightened that they were going to run out of masks. You see, masks aren't just something that a paranoid premier can stand in front of for politics. They were needed by frontline workers from the police on the borders, to the soldiers in the hotels, to the men and women inside the hospitals. But they were running out. It, put simply, was a lie. And to underline how what the Premier said was a lie, today she was in Rockhampton desperately trying to pretend that now she cares about communities outside of the southeast when we know she doesn't. Look at her record for the rest of her time in power. Well, today, the idiot Deputy Premier, who, remember, has a doctorate in unionism, he was announcing a new stockpile will be built because the last one almost ran out.
It's a part of our critical supply stockpile. We want to make sure that we have a massive stockpile of all of the equipment that we need right throughout the state. We never want a Queensland health nurse to ever have to worry again if they will have the masks that they want.
Worry again, because they worried before, because the government didn't have enough equipment. It had all the politics ready, all of the press conferences ready, but it didn't actually have the resources in place to make sure that those people didn't have to worry about it. So now, let's build a giant storeroom, let's put it in regional Queensland and pretend that that is either doing anything about the current pandemic, where, of course, there are more cases in places like Western Australia than New South Wales, but of course those borders, they have to stay up because that's the politics. So Queensland, I say this to you yet again. The Premier, the Deputy Premier and her ministers think you are an idiot, think that you do not remember the reality of the situation. Put simply, do you trust the Premier who pretended that she didn't remember, as we told you last night, a former Labor MP who went on to be part of a consultancy that was paid $500,000 in taxpayers' money to do, among other things, polling for the Queensland government? She claimed that this former Labor MP was a bloke that she had no idea about. That's my...
Can you just provide us an update what Mike Casey has been doing for your government? And do you speak with him much?
Sorry, who do you mean?
Mike Casey.
I don't know who you're talking about.
I don't know who you're talking about. Do you trust that person who lied about PPE, who lied about not knowing who this former MP was, despite the fact that when he was being paid $500,000, his firm was rather, I should say, by the Queensland taxpayer to, among other things, do polling for the Queensland government, she met with him face to face, not once, not twice, but 7 different times. As the Courier Mail was able to have a look at her diary. She met the bloke that she claimed she had no knowledge of on April 26, April 30, May 13, May 22, June 22, June 30, June 9. Oh yeah, and she's employed his son, the bloke that apparently she has no memory of whatsoever, in her office. Do you trust that person? Do you trust the health minister who ran a system that didn't pay people $500 million for the things that they were selling to Queensland Health? Do you believe that these two people who so bald-faced lie to you every single day, that now suddenly they're all on top of everything? She pretended not to know a bloke who she's met with 7 times, whose son is employed in her office. She said, this is our shield against the virus. But they were worried they were going to run out because there was so little of it. And now they want to say, trust us, because no one should ever worry again.